the discourse around Rihanna has greatly benefited from her not putting anything out, and then to only put out the like Smurf song, and she did 2 songs for Wakanda Forever. Does anybody remember them?
Lift me up. I was there.
Were you lifted?
Yeah, I was lifted. Yeah.
Okay.
I think her record-breaking run is immortal, and I think, the Stones still get to be the Rolling Stones even after they've been in, Amex commercials and shit. And I think, Rihanna wants to have a bunch of kids with A$AP Rocky and do some sellout soundtrack jams. I think that's her prerogative, and I don't think that takes away from Anti, from Shut Up and Dance, Shut Up and Drive, from All of the Lights, from Umbrella. I mean, come on. I think she's just got a legendary career, even if she wants to just sit on her hands for the next, rest of her life, I suppose.
Yeah, I look, her highs are immaculate, and I was in high school during her peak, so I remember Umbrella coming out. I remember the first time I heard a Ponda Replay, which was her debut single. I legitimately I didn't even know Tainted Love because I was an idiot teenager or whatever. But the first time I heard Tainted Love or Ponda Replay, I literally went on mp3.com, which is now a totally defunct site, and I was searching for it. I was like, what is this song? This is crazy. So I loved Rihanna. I just think all of her albums were pretty mid as actual albums other than Anti. And I think that people have just been clamoring for more stuff, and I don't like what she's been doing. I don't like her on her Jay-Z, I'm not a businesswoman, I'm a businesswoman thing.
You didn't leave enough of a space in between those words.
Well, Rihanna left enough space for me.
You're right. I do want her back. I want her back in the booth and not just hanging out. But I mean, again, who can blame her? Being married to A$AP Rocky, she's pretty cool.
Yeah. Dakota's not happy.
No, I don't even like it. Just an approximation of that song. Really, it feels like I'm waiting in traffic.
I love waiting in traffic. I get to listen to my tunes. Well, on that note, let's start the episode. Click.
Remember that record that you bought me 2 years ago? Well, I just remembered that it's sitting in the closet, so I called you up just to tell you I've been meaning to listen to that. I've been meaning to listen to that. Why don't you come over and talk about it? Ooh, why don't you come over and talk about it?
Yeah. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the show. Welcome to I've Been Mean to Listen to That, the podcast where we go through music we've been mean to listen to and use that as conduit to learn about each other and our guests. I'm Andrew Ambrose Lee. I'm Dakota Foss.
I'm Dakota Foss. We never have established the order that we're supposed to go in.
It used to be Andrew, Michael, me, then Stenley, but now there's so many different amalgamations of this show.
Yeah.
Oh, but I'm Harper Thomson.
I'm Andrew Ambrose Lee. I'm Dakota Foss.
I already said I'm Dakota Foss. You can't do the voice again.
It's so funny. It makes me laugh. But yeah, Dakota Foss is here. He's one of our co-hosts. He's a good guy. We all love Rihanna, and we're here to finish our Lorde series off with a prequel, not unlike Better Call Saul. What happened to Saul and his what happened? Who's Nacho? Why did he say why you send who? Lalo, did Lalo send you? These are questions that we were clamoring for answers for, and just we love to explore the morality of how a person changes and everything like that. I don't know why I'm saying all this, but we're here to talk about Lorde's Pure Heroine, and to do that we got very special guest writer, musician, has a new album called Raw Deal out. Please welcome Jack Riedy. Hi.
Hey,
Woo!
thanks for having me. Good to be back. Excited to be on the pop side of things after doing the Earl episode earlier this year.
Yeah. But yeah, like I remember you talking last time about how Earl was an artist you kind of grew up alongside. You kind of discovered him very when he was at the genesis of his career, and then you always like checking in on him, as he ages, as he releases a new project, like how his perspective changes and such. Do you feel similarly about Lorde? And what is your Lorde history?
Yeah, definitely. That's a great way to sum it up. I think Earl, if memory serves, is like a year or so older than me, and I think Lorde is just about my age or maybe a year younger. And I think they're both good examples of, again, being practically child stars whose music I was very into when they were first coming up, and they're about my age. It was cool to just see them doing their thing. And then I think they've stuck around and evolved in interesting ways. That's been very cool to observe. I've seen them live each quite a few times, and it's been cool to, see them perform their thing and how their styles change over time. And yeah, Lorde is someone that I think I don't remember exactly how I first heard her, but it was pretty early, like when Tennis Court came out. I was briefly aware of her with the Love Club EP, and then when Royals really came out as a single, it was a huge hit immediately, and I was really into it. If memory serves, it would have been summer 2012 because I remember listening to it over and over again, along with Kendrick Lamar's Swimming Pools. And I don't know if those make sense really thematically, but I enjoyed listening to that combo. And I think there is something to that kind of like they're each doing a bit of a cautionary tale thing with the moralizing they're doing. And yeah, it was cool to see, someone from what we think of as a remote part of the world here in the US have this very interesting perspective and sound that built on a lot of very cool music that had been around in the recent years. And I think she's continued to be very interesting in the years since. But Pure Heroine is a jam, has a lot of jams on it, has some duds on it, but I'm excited to get into it.
Oh yeah. And yeah, what about like this album? Like do you remember where you, and this is to all of y'all, do you remember where you were when this was coming out? Like I kind of remember Miley Cyrus, like her rise, and like this was around the same time, and then you would hear, Can't Stop, and then you'll hear this song. I think like those two music videos came out like a day apart from each other. But do you remember kind of where music was, where pop music was around this time? I think also Dakota can like probably speak on this a little better, but do you remember that a bit?
Yeah, I feel like the first time I heard this song, I was in traffic. But it was so the first time I heard Royals, I was in traffic, but it didn't feel like I was in traffic. And that's the hallmark of a good song. It's the anti-Smurf song, if you will. Yeah, I like definitely pop music was in a weird spot because it was very music as a whole was very much like at the end of a cycle of fun. Like pop music goes through a cycle of partying, we're all having a good time, everything rules, and then there's a cycle of everything sucks, life is hard, the world is a terrible place, like, I'm going to cross my arms and I'm going to get like sad. And Lorde really helped usher that in and was like, this is done. The party is over. This was probably like the closest. This was a new generation's why can't I think of the Nirvana song? Smells Like Teen Spirit. Royals is just the new generation Smells Like Teen Spirit. And I don't even think that, like, I'm probably not the first person who's made that analog or yeah, I'm not that clever for coming up with that. But yeah, like Miley Cyrus was totally big. Rihanna was popping off with a couple songs. Where Have You Been All My Life was like really big. And, Carly Rae Jepsen had
Call Me Maybe.
Call Me Maybe. Why am I blanking? Like, honestly, that period of pop music was pretty dire in my opinion. Because like EDM was starting to pop off and nobody really knew what to do with it. So like pop music itself kind of was fading into the background a little bit, and you had like Avicii's Levels popping off. Like that was the move. But that was sort of like the atmosphere that this was born into. It was like EDM was popping off. People were sort of really unelegantly trying to put in bass drops and everything like that at the time. And then Lorde was like, nope, this is all done.
Yeah, where were you, Harper?
Yeah, I feel like I really think of this as being in like a class of like Tumblr artists from that time. So like when I think of Royals by Lorde, I'm also thinking of like Bastille, you know, Pompeii. I'm thinking of Sweater Weather by The Neighborhood. I'm thinking of like You're the One by Charlie XCX. Like these are all the songs that I'd like, you know, put on 8 tracks playlist together and then post on Tumblr, you know.
Gotta do the 8 tracks.
You gotta.
I think that was part of the appeal of Lorde is, you know, she was a 16-year-old who it was clear had Googled like best albums in the past to just get into new music and clearly was active online on things like Tumblr. You know, I feel like the default persona on Tumblr amongst teenagers at that time was this kind of faux, aloof, arty kid who's interested in, you know, older things and has an aesthetic and probably wears all black at the time the way Lorde did. So I think you're totally right that there was some overlap there stylistically with all these other musicians that still had a really wide array of sounds between them. Like I don't think of Charlie XCX and early Lorde as being really in the same sort of style, but there's definitely some overlap there.
Yeah, I'm just like, let me ask this then. Like, do you like based on like this album, like in of itself, I'm very like perplexed by it. Like I think it's good. I think there's some really great moments. I think it's Ribs is as good as everyone says it is. Like this is the first time I must have heard it, but like just like really paying attention to it. Like it's as good as everyone says it is. It deserves the retrospectives. It deserves the video essays. It deserves it all. But like, is she like based on this album alone? Like, is she really a trailblazer? Like, I just kind of hear
yes.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
please, yeah.
Yes, we're like we have to shut the door on like we have to shut the door on inviting anything but that answer in. Like yes, she's a trailblazer. Like
I like this.
This is like the closest thing that I can think of other than Nirvana of like an artist single-handedly changing the meta for popular music, like with a single song. It like obviously it extends to the entire album. The entire album is mostly variations of Royals, like if we're being honest. But yes, like how many songs turned to like snapping for their percussion? They had super minimalist production after that with very airy vocals. Like, you know, you can we have said so many words about what Lorde's career has become, but you owe this album is the spawn point for Billie Eilish. It's the spawn point for Ariana doing something other than being Mariah Carey, because her early stuff was just belting it and being Mariah Carey, but like all the hushed whisper sexy stuff, that's this album. That like everybody who did stuff like that after this, it's this album, right? I don't know. I'm curious what everybody else thinks.
Yeah, I feel like, you know, listening to this album now, if it's like for the first time or even just like if you haven't listened to it for a while, it's easy to kind of like dismiss it as being, you know, cheesy or corny or like, you know, I don't know, kind of like how at the beginning of hip hop, it was like dun 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 dun. You know, that was like the sound of the beginning of hip hop. And then, but this is to me like the sound of, like you're saying, like an entire generation of pop music that followed it, you know? And so it's like, yeah, she's like, you know, we're on each other's team and, you know, we'll never be royals. And it's like all kind of like basic, corny ideas. But she was doing it in a combination with a sound that hadn't been used, and like she was so young, and it really spoke to a lot of people. And I think it was like honestly a pretty revolutionary, album, pop album.
And I do think that there's more in common on Pure Heroine than it gets credit for with the other pop of the time. Like it is a more subtle album in a lot of ways, but I think it definitely engages with some of the things that were branded as EDM at the time, where the bass certainly approximates that kind of wobble at times. There are these parts that, like the beginning of Team to me is so like post Kanye, where she sings a part and then it kind of gets chopped up as if you're hearing like a song get built out of a sample. And so I think there's a real sense of style to it that is distinct from some of the other music that was out. But I think there's also, I mean, there is quite a few like 4 on the floor dance beats on this album, which is funny because I think when I was listening to this earlier today on Apple Music, it said something about, so different from the 4 on the floor beats at the time. And I'm like, 4 or 5 of these have like a disco break at the end, which is cool. It sounds great, but I think it just, has sort of a cooler mood, and her voice is certainly produced differently, like you were alluding to, the way that it foreshadowed people like Billie Eilish and the production like that.
I do think that you're right in that, like, there is it's really engaging with the landscape at the time, for sure. Like, is this so different than like Miley Cyrus's We Can't Stop, like kind of with the same tempo and I guess vibe, other than the lyrics being almost the complete opposite, thematically speaking. But I think what makes this a little more ingratiated than what maybe I was saying is that like this is an actual pop album, and you might be able to argue that this is Lorde's like only pop album. Melodrama has like its fair share, and I do think that Melodrama is a pop album, but like Virgin and Solar Power, like they're not even trying to be pop. Whereas this, like, there's so many singles off of this album that when I was listening to it, I guess I was surprised like how much I was taken aback to like being in like an H&M. like just like shopping at a mall or something like this stuff it was so fresh and different sounding, but it did still have that pop structure, whereas like you're not going to be hearing like any Virgin song anywhere other than like what was that.
I guess let's talk about this album though. Like let's talk about like kind of what this album is about, how y'all just feel about it, like however like 12 or so years later, like what's your perspective on this album? I'm Dakota Foss.
Okay, I was trying to let somebody else go. I don't know, like this album is just so much bigger than an album to me. Like it feels weird to revisit it. It felt strange to hear like the songs that weren't singles, because the songs that were singles were just like so ubiquitous, like you couldn't go anywhere, to the store, to parties, watching sporting events, like everybody wanted a piece of the Lorde pie. So it just really takes me back to that time period of 2012, 2013, even 2014. Like this thing was so crazy that they were like, I think like the last single for the last song that was released as a single, I'm not looking at the Wikipedia right now, but I'm pretty sure it was like in 2014 or something. I remember like I caught, everybody obviously knows like Tennis Court, Royals, Love Club, like Ribs. And I remember like there was a commercial for the Vikings show on History Channel, and I think they used Gore and Glory as like the like song to like advertise their show. And I started laughing the first time I saw that commercial. I'm like, literally everybody wants a piece of the Lorde pie. Like, it's just such like a time capsule, and like I think that to come at this with fresh ears, if you weren't there or you weren't like listening to this I mentioned this kind of in like the pre-show group chat, but like this album is probably like the Seinfeld of this of like pop music, like it maybe fades into the background a little bit if like you haven't heard it before, because like because it's inspired so much that came after. But at the time, I can assure you that was not the case. Um, Listening to it now, I think that there maybe was like a little bit of not fading to the background, but there's just so much like familiarity with half the album that it was just like, yep, okay. That was like, we're hitting the notes here. But I don't know, some of the songs that I completely forgot about. But 400 Lux, like that song kind of slaps.
That sounds
and I forgot about it.
I definitely called that one out as really good lyrics for sure. Like that one, totally. I think really nails the kind of teenage perspective in a way that doesn't feel cloying or too pretentious. I think she works really well at portraying, again, that kind of aloof, arty teenager in a way that has some sense of self-awareness and self-deprecation. But every so often, I think the lyrics are just a little too much, which, who can fault the 16-year-old for that necessarily? But 400 Lux, I think she totally nails it. Those lyrics are so good. And the like haziness of the beat works so well with it. I think it's so good.
Just like that song and Ribs feel very like the bones of melodrama of just like I got the dinosaur bone, like let's try to make a full dinosaur here, like but yeah, like that's what I see, like that's how I feel about it though. It's just like the architecture for the Lorde house, and like people were like, oh, I love this architecture so much, I love the beams, the wooden beams of this minimalist house so much. And like, it's not a finished house, like that's how I feel just like looking back on it.
Did you guys buy it? Do you remember like 2013? Did you either download it or get the record or something like that? Because I think I bought it on iTunes.
I was a Spotify boy. I was an early adopter of Spotify. Like as soon as it was available in the US, I basically became like a ping. Yeah. Not to brag or anything, but I remember going to the blog metalsucks.net, which I think is still around. And like in 2008, they like had maybe it was 2009, but they had an article that was like, there's a company called Spotify that does streaming, which kind of seems like a cool concept. And so when it came out here, I was like, yeah, let's give it a shot. So yeah, I was streaming a lot. This was like a fixture. I was always like the DJ of like putting together playlists for college parties, like in my group of friends. So like half this album was on there.
I guess like I want to zoom back just a teeny tiny bit. Like we're talking about everyone wants a piece of the Lorde pie, and just like this was such a moment. But like I'm also like trying to triangulate on what it is about her, like this itself, like why, like beyond that it's different. I keep reading reviews, everyone's saying, and she's 15 and she's 16, like it like my only like kind of insight, the insight I'm kind of catching on is like the exploration of boredom as like a major theme of this album. It starts with like the only like, don't you think it's boring how people talk like that, like, and when I look on the internet these days, I'll every once in a while come across a YouTube video that says like boredom is good, we should go back to boredom, because we're not like, and like back before the internet, it was always like, well, I hit that hoop with that stick a bunch, and then Walter Cronkite comes on at 5, and then like at 6 o'clock, there's a boat that I could wave at. But beyond, like in between that time, I have nothing to do and I'm bored. And like there's like, but now the boredom has changed where like we're so overstimulated and we're so like social media, like YouTube, all these webs, and like this is like when like all these things were kind of like the internet age was starting to like coalesce into what we know today. And it's kind of more of a boredom in terms of like, hollowness and emptiness. And like this, I think this album kind of flirts with like a playful solipsism, cynicism, misanthropy a little bit. Like or just like kind of the perspective of like, I'm a gifted kid, I'm so smart, I'm better than y'all. But I just like so I just feel like this kind of identifies the shift in what boredom means and what me being disaffected as a teenager means a little bit, like kind of identifying that and like latching onto that. But what is your how do you feel about that, I guess?
I think you're right that what was felt so revolutionary about her was that, she was singing songs like this as a teen, but I think it was the fact that the new way to be a like pop sensation was singing over these very at times minimal beats that are very post Kanye, post MIA. Sometimes there's just like snaps and bass, like Dakota was alluding to. And for her to have this pretty timeless theme of boredom and youthful ennui, but channel it through this kind of goth alternative pretentious thing, I think was pretty unique and felt like a new step forward at that time. And then within a few years, she was doing things like hanging out with Kanye and singing live for the Nirvana reunion, amongst other singers. So
she did the Hunger Games.
Yeah, that too. Like her influence proliferated very quickly. And so I think it started with this sense of like, oh, well, here is, what the new sense of a young person making music can be, in a way that I think was distinct from previous child stars or previous people who kind of rose up out of smaller parts of the world.
Yeah, I think that to piggyback like off a lot of what you two just said, like to put yourself in the mindset of what life and the internet was in like 2011 is so maddening to do that like in 2025. like when I think back to like 2011 me, like I'm going to BuzzFeed, I'm going to Reddit, I'm watching TED Talks. Like there was this like bright-eyed, bushy-tailed optimism about like what technology and the internet could do to like make everybody's lives better. And I think that they're and obviously you had Obama's first like presidential term, where like he ran on hope, like healthcare, everything like that. And like 2011, 2012 with like the Occupy Wall Street movement, like really was kind of the moment I think where things like were kind of being like, well, guys, like when's this happening? When are things getting better? Like I feel like we were promised all this stuff and it's not happening. And so there was like this sort of like delayed like ennui, malaise to this where it started to sink in that like this era of optimism was maybe misplaced or ill-founded. And I think that Lorde like was the first major artist to like kind of come out and spearhead validating those feelings, where it's like, I'm bored. Like, I don't know how to, like, I'm tired of hearing about these rappers and like sing about their jewelries and like, their model girlfriends and everything. I'm just somebody in the middle of nowhere, like you don't know the cities that we're from and everything, and just kind of like coming out and like calling a spade where it's again like I don't want to sing about partying. Things suck and they're not getting better. So I don't know, maybe that was like a very roundabout way of trying to square the circle on a lot of big ideas, but there is that greater cultural optimism that was shifting into pessimism around this time, and I feel like Lorde just kind of was like first mover advantage of vocalizing some of those feelings.
I feel like one of the themes of this album for me is like nostalgia, but what's so interesting about Lorde is that, like Andrew, like you were saying, every review is like, and she's 15, right? The fact that she's writing about nostalgia from this place of being 15 years old, where it's like almost nostalgia for something that hasn't passed yet, you know? So like on Melodrama, we talked a little bit about this where she's like looking back. Even then she's still young, but she's like reflecting on something that has passed. And this album, she's kind of reflecting on knowing that it's about to pass, like her, you know, youth, her this like, you know, these house parties she's having or like running around with her friends or all this stuff. Like she's in the final days of it. And I feel like that maybe ties in a little bit with like the proliferation of the internet and the way that like everything was changing around that time because it like, you know, I don't know, suddenly you're just in this totally different, horrible world. You know, that you know, you don't have those like, you know, the Buzzcut season or whatever where you're just like a young kid shaving your head running around. You're like, oh, I'm being observed, which kind of ties into a lot of like people talking and all that stuff that she talks about on the album. But it's just this, you know, very specific to her age and also the time that the album was released.
Yeah, and then I think it's interesting as well that she's singing about these very relatable sentiments for teenagers who are wrapping up high school, going to college, or moving out, or all these sort of things. But then she's living it through this sort of magnified pop star arc of becoming famous and putting out music and things that I think is somewhat ironic in light of Royals being her first real calling card song. But I think it works really well for straddling that line with those universal sentiments, but then tying up these real world sentiments or real world situations she's had of traveling the world and making money for the first time and things like that.
Yeah, I think it's like the album starts with her on the plane leaving New Zealand and like going to America. I presume like that's what it seems like, going to America to become a pop star because she was discovered at the age of 12. Like it's like so there's like a heightened starkness to like the change of like most people like kind of have a gradual like, okay, I'm in college now and there's more responsibilities, and then I turn 21 and then this happens and that happens, I could rent a car or whatever, and then like it becomes more and more like there's like a starkness to her sudden adolescence, like her sudden like move into adulthood while also being a kid, while also being so young. And I think it's like it feels like the nostalgia like for a prior time, even though she's so young, is also like knowing that she'll never get to experience those things again, like as a normal person. I think it's like the grief of that, and like also just like maybe being a little smarter than she maybe a little wiser for her age group, like a little bit. Like I remember when I was like in middle school, and I don't remember the context for a while saying this. We were in like gym class, and we were just like standing around, like kids were like climbing the rope and stuff, and I just like said out loud like, we're like children. And like the guy next to me was like, shut up. Like that was like a thing that was like there's like this, I just had this like self-awareness that like we are like, I have no real autonomy, I have like no real like power, and like we're just like little kids in like a gymnasium, and like the kid next to me did not want to hear it at all. So like I feel like this she's very aware of like she's crossing a threshold. She's very aware that like when you're young and you get to and you throw like a house party and you feel like an adult for a little bit, you get to go back to being a kid. Like you get to go back to like not being responsible for paying for the damage you did. While when you're an adult, you can go back to feeling like a kid, but you're always aging. You're always marching forward towards death. You're always marching forward towards the blood not running through your veins anymore. And that's really like, I think that's tripping up now, like at the age of 15. And like everything, her sudden celebrity, her sudden like virality, just like this opportunity, as if she's chosen by God, is tripping her up a bit about that.
I think with like a lot of those themes of like she's clinging tightly to her youth while also like kind of trying her best to prove that she's not like there's like a weird push and pull of it with relationship with like her, you know, her relationship to herself and the world. Like the world's a big place. like, but I'm also kind of past it. But look at these things that we are, look at these things that we've been, look at these things that we'll never be. Some of her musing kind of reminds me of Tony Soprano's quote that he says like at the beginning of The Sopranos, where he's
I'm
like,
Tony Soprano. Oh.
Yeah, that part. I get a lot of guy who's only known Tony Soprano as a fictional character and nobody else. I'm getting a lot of Tony Soprano vibes from this album. But no, like there's that quote where Tony Soprano is like, sometimes I get the feeling like I came in at the end, like I think that there's like a very much a universal feeling with a lot of teenagers, like from the last couple decades, of feeling like you came in at the end of things. Like you're born into a world where there's no future, or the future that you were promised doesn't exist anymore. And so it's just kind of trying to wrestle with like, okay, well, if the things that we were promised aren't possible, like what is? Like I certainly had some of those feelings when I was in high school, and I think like the sentiment that I get from a lot of young people now is like there's that, like the things with the climate crisis have only gotten louder, and the economic situations aren't doing too great like across the board. And that was kind of the case with Lorde on this. And like I do think that her mentions of youth on this album like are definitely something that I go back and forth on, because there's some songs like 400 Lux. I keep on having to look to see if it's 400 Lux or 40 Lux. But songs like that, I'm like, she was cooking. She's very prescient. I gotta change the battery on my camera, but
oh no, it's the Donda cover.
Like, check it out. It's Donda and Metallica's Black Album both at once. But like sometimes she's like really cooking. She's really smart, and prescient with like her lot in life, where she fits into things. But then there's definitely other times where I do roll my eyes a little bit, where it's like, okay, but you are 16. Like you don't have to act like you're definitely smarter than your years, with a lot of the beautiful lyricism on this album. But some of the like sentiments of like, oh, it's too late for me, I'm so old, I'm never, like, stuff along those lines, I am kind of like, I don't know, man.
Yeah.
I think the irony of that does age well, though. Like, I think it allows you to go back now, 12 years since the album's come out, and listen to this kid be nervous about that and sort of chuckle at it, but also be like, well, time sure did pass.
Yeah. And like, that's where I got the is she a trailblazer kind of question from. It's just it's like some of this is like, again, Ribs, Tennis Court, 400 Lux. Those are great songs. Like, but then like they're like White Teeth Teens and stuff is kind of like even Royals, like there's a little bit of like you don't know anything about anything, like you don't know, like you're just like kind of like and then like as she ages, I think the kind of the shift becomes like I actually don't know anything about anything, and like what we're talking about with like maybe she was just a girl that came in at the right place at the right time, and like meta moments. Yeah, but like it's kind of like these. I felt a little bit like, is she real? She's not like Malala, she's not like that, like brilliant. So like she's not that like impressive, like yeah, like, but yeah.
I think she engages with some of that underdog nature a lot because she does. I don't think she comes into it with that sort of like hip hop braggadocio, but I do think she engages with the sound of a lot of that music. Which I think is what makes something like Team such a compelling song, because it has that sort of rah nature to it, but it also, you could play it like in a party playlist, or it could play on rap radio. I'm actually surprised that there wasn't more of like a a remix with someone like Wiz Khalifa thrown on it or something.
Oh.
But it would be that, right? 2013. That's probably the guy they'd get, right?
No, it totally is.
Yeah. Well, I do think it's like so interesting how much Lorde loved like Kanye West and Jay-Z at that time. Like, she cited Watch the Throne as like an inspiration for this album. And then on the Mockingjay album that she produced, like Kanye does a remix of Yellow Flicker Beat. And I was actually going back through my old Tumblr from like 2013, 2014, and I found this she covered
Hold My Liquor.
I'm in it.
Yes.
Oh no, she did do Hold My Liquor.
Hold
right?
My Liquor, yes. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, Lorde doing Hold My Liquor, and I completely forgot about that, but it is crazy. But it is like interesting how like kind of seamlessly that worked, I think, as a cover, just because of how much like Kanye West was an influence on her.
Yeah, and like that was the other thing. I'm just like, yeah, I've listened to 808s and Heartbreak and MIA too. I've listened to that. Like this is like the sound is like just like a iteration of those things, and I felt like I was less impressed, I guess, initially.
I was surprised when I went back to listen to it recently that she really doesn't sound all that auto-tuned. Like, I'm sure she has been tuned with the program, but she's not doing the like 808s T-Pain effect all that much. Even on the backing vocals, she's not kind of tapping into the Bon Iver thing or anything like that, which I think is cool, and I think probably helps her music stay a little more consistent over time because it's really built around her voice sounding a little more natural.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I feel like this album deserves a little more credit than the group is giving it like right now. Like I do think that she like I think that she is like tapping into the greatest possible version that a teenage Tumblr user could possibly put out. Like, think about the people you knew in your life that were on Tumblr and imagine if they put out a major album and how bad that would be. Like the fact that like somebody who's 14 or whatever is putting out lines like, when you're a part of the Love Club, like everything will open up for you, like that's a pretty insane sentiment. Like, this could have easily turned into I was really excited when you went to the homecoming dance. Like, I went on MySpace for music a lot back then. I remember what it was like to have people at my high school put out music. Like, I think that there's definitely like a little bit of synthesizing, Kanye's stuff on there. And like, clearly she's pulling on the threads that people were leaving that were sort of hinting at like, malaise, boredom, not really sadness. There's not really a lot of sadness on this. There's a lot of yearning though. And we have 4 albums from Lorde now. And like, for me, I would say that this is probably her second best, only to Melodrama. Like, so much of her career since this album has been her singing about being, this wonderkind indigo child. And like, this is the album where she was that. like she, this was her. She was on her Jeremy Lin. Like, remember Lin's Sanity?
Do I?
No way. No, who is Jeremy Lin? No way he keeps this up. I mean, he didn't. But like this is her Lin Sanity. She's rattling off like a lot of really, really good lyricism. Like the sound was pretty fresh at the time. And like, she sounds really hungry. She sounds like she really wants to prove herself, even in the face of singing about all this malaise. And knowing what we got after this, like, I like Lorde when she's hungry. I like what Lorde when she's
rumble.
I like Lorde when she has like something to prove and to say, because when that doesn't happen, then we get solar power, or I would also argue Virgin.
I'll just roll through like 2 quick themes, like just 2 quick like motifs I've noticed. Is veins is a theme. She kind of like veins and blood is a kind of constant motif in this album. Like, I'll see the veins of my city like they do in space. Brilliant line. We're never done with killing time. Can I kill of you till the veins run red and blue? Like this idea of this beautiful idea that every human being with their own unique experiences and perspectives and emotions are they're like you're like one blood cell pumping life into a city, and like you are part of a collective. Like you are just like one piece of the the machinations of a community or like an ecosystem. And then the same thing is happening within your body. Like, like blood is rushing through your veins to make me say what I'm saying, or like that led me all the way to this point or something. And
I think that's an interesting image too, because I think she does some really interesting writing around like a group of friends when you're a teenager and how you can kind of have your own nucleus that you form around, and different things can shift over time or very quickly, when you're that young and you're going through all these different things for the first time. That's a really interesting image to think about all throughout that album.
Where this is sometimes where I don't like Lorde's writing, where she kind of like speaks for us as a collective, like there's like, this is what society is like. We listen to rap music, but we're poor, and like just like
but I will defend like that. Like you have to remember that at the time, like Jack said, Wiz Khalifa was popping off. Like maybe she should have been a little specific and be like, yeah, I don't want to hear Wiz Khalifa, but like I don't want to hear Wiz Khalifa.
You can't say that because he might be on your remix. Like,
I guess I don't know. I'm on Lorde's team with that.
Just like the song Team. But yeah, and then like the other theme, just like real quickly, is this theme of growing up means losing control yet gaining responsibility. Like there's a motif of cars in both this album and Melodrama, and like the line about like, and like she's always in like the passenger seat in a lot of these songs of like 400 Lux, like he's got his arm draped over the wheel, and like he's driving around, and they're just killing time by driving around the suburbs and such. And like in Melodrama, like, in the car, the radio up, we know the talk about us. Like she's like always like being driven by someone else, and like I think that's like a metaphor for her, like how she feels in relationships. But then in Virgin, she brings up this idea like, I made you God because that's all I knew how to. That's all I knew how to do. Like that's all I knew what to do. Of like, I think in Virgin, she's finally starting to say like, I am responsible for myself. I am my own Lord. I don't know anything, actually. I thought I did, but I don't know anything. I think that's why that album is compelling. But I think it's a interesting journey, like from there to here.
I definitely think like sort of that universality or in community oriented thinking that she has a lot on this album, where yes, maybe she's trying to speak for us. I think that's like pretty emblematic of just like being that age, though. When you're a teenager, like you're trying to prove that you belong, that you are an adult, that you're ready to pass all these milestones. Like you've done the drugs, you've had sex, like you got a car, you're driving, all that stuff.
I've done all those things. Like,
yeah, like look at me, I'm a cool guy. But like, you're doing those benchmarks in relation to like everyone else around you. Like you're keeping tabs, you're keeping score on everyone in your grade. Like when you're coming into all of these things becoming realities, as people start dating, as people start drinking or doing drugs or driving and getting a car, or your first job, or any of those things. And so I think that it makes sense that there's a little bit of pointing out those milestones themselves, while also like talking to her cohort of just like, yeah, we're all doing this, we're all having house parties and drinking, right? And as she gets older, and as we all get older, that's when you really start to examine like yourself on an individual scale, and what of those things that you've been do you like? What of those things do you not like? What about society do you want to change? What about it can you change? And it starts becoming like a little more individual. But I think that like the communal nature that she's singing from and singing very well about like really lends itself to like a universality for this and for melodrama that I really like. Even if she's not totally hitting 100% of the marks with some of the things that she's saying, I think that it's messy and it's imperfect, like adolescence is, and I think like a lot of grace can be extended there, and for me, it really works, and like if I was the age that Lorde was when she was putting this stuff out, I'd be like, yes, talk for me. I'm a fucking idiot.
Yeah, let's go through highlight songs right after this break. Click.
Hey guys, if you're enjoying the episode, please consider subscribing to our I've Been Meaning to Listen to That Patreon, where for $2.99 a month, you get access to our I've Been Meaning to Watch That bonus podcast feed, where we cover movie musicals, we cover concert films, we cover musician biopics, and it's just a great time with our co-host Stephanie Senior, and it's all just for $2.99 a month. So please consider subscribing, supporting the show. We really love doing the show, so it'd be greatly appreciated. Okay, love you. Bye.
And we're back here to talk about Pure Heroine. I keep saying Pure Heroine. I don't want to be insensitive.
Yeah, say it again. Start over.
We're here to talk about Pure Heroine by Lorde. They should have called her Bored because she's so bored on this album. Like,
not dignifying that.
Jack, your camera's upside down. Also, you meant to do a thumbs up, but like your camera's
Oh yeah, that's what happened. Yeah, you got me. I will say while we're at it, total wasted opportunity. The album art is so boring. And I think they were just trying to be like cool and minimalist, and it's not cool and minimalist.
It says the title on the album on the cover.
And basically nothing else in like this most boring like Arial font.
It's got like kind of like a metal, like a foil kind of texture.
Yeah.
It's very faint, but it's, I don't know. It's like slightly edgy.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of like it. Like
I don't love it.
I don't mean to just be like contrarian, but like I do think that like this album specifically was like, they were it was shifting the tide, and it was kind of antagonistic towards like the pop norms at the time. And in an era where, you're getting other teen singers like Ariana Grande and Miley Cyrus, like it's just their photo essentially as like the album cover. Like this one's like, you get none of that. You just get Lorde, the name of the album, and that's it,
Her other album covers though, like say what you will about them, whether you like them or dislike them, they're like they make a statement. They kind of tell you what it is. Like this doesn't really tell me what this album's about beyond that it's like minimalist. But also I don't see this foil that you're talking about.
It's definitely there.
Is this album more boring than Secret of Us, Gracie Abrams?
Oh.
Well, this one we don't have to look at Gracie Abrams, so I'm gonna say this one's better.
It's a novel.
I'm sorry, I'm pro
Secret
Gracie.
of Us. Secret of Us has a novel font, kind of. It's a little novel. Jack's camera flipped over again. But anyhow,
I'm taking my jacket off. I'm getting heated.
Sorry, I didn't mean to besmirch Gracie.
It's okay. I know I'm the only one who likes her.
I think some of it's fun. But yeah, like I guess let's talk about highlight songs. What's a highlight song for y'all?
Ribs. Yeah, it's really good. I like it a lot. I feel like it's, we talked a lot about how stripped back this whole album is, but Ribs is, I think, the first track on the album that has like a little bit more production. Like it's like more atmospheric. Yeah, I don't know. It's a really great song. It really evokes that like, teenage feeling of running around and being young. I love it a lot. It's a great song.
I really like the Ryan Hemsworth remix that came out like a year or two later. And it's very like Soul Action vibe where it like chops up all the backing vocals and stuff and sounds kind of Clamps Casino-y. It's a really cool version that I go back to a lot. I probably listen to that more than I listen to the original Ribs at this point.
I don't know if I've heard that one.
It's good. I'll drop a link in the chat. It's a jam.
Yeah, please do.
Yeah, this is the one I feel like the minimalism really helps the lyrics of the story. Like just like adds an environment that's so nostalgic. It's so like hazy, and like there's the way the instrumental is constructed feels like it's evoking fondness of a thing that just happened, of like but also like the sadness of like I'm thinking of like how it's ending as it's happening at the same time. Like I get that way too, like especially with like I was kind of a late bloomer for like a lot of like the milestones that like a lot of like people go through. And once I passed them, or once I like did like crossed one off the list, I was kind of like thinking about it as it was happening, or thinking about like sometimes like thinking about like posting it, thinking about like kind of like the photos I took, or like like, or just like kind of this as, or like trying to like identify as many tactile elements as possible while the event was happening, so that I would have it more locked into my memory, as I would no longer be in this moment. And I'd also be sad that I'll be so happy and then think like, man, I won't feel this happy later. Just kind of like this like melancholy of just like an overthinker. And yeah, also just like having the not having responsibilities in the same way that she's about to, of like as a kid, like a house party is such like a threshold moment of just like having a house party with all your underage friends drink and stuff, where as an adult, like I'm thinking about that, and like if I had kids, that'd be like a nightmare of just like, shit, I have to like someone threw up on the carpet and it's like $400 to like have that cleaned out, or just like someone like broke my IKEA glass table that I rented, I just paid off, or like someone like even like someone just ate all the food out of my fridge, and like, fuck, I have to buy groceries again. Like I'm just thinking about all that. And like when you're a kid, you're kind of like removed from that responsibility of like thinking about the cost of things, thinking about like the impact, or what something does to your body all the time. Like I think that's just like, and I think she's kind of triangulating on these moments that are like very like laughing until your ribs turn tough, or like lying in your bed like little kids. Like it's like just so sweet, such a beautiful unreal, like again, like just deserves every accolade, deserves its place in the iconography of like great songs. So yeah.
The other thing I like in Ribs is that she's really kind of telegraphing that she's a cool girl when she says "Lover spit left on repeat." It's like, yeah, I listen to Broken Social Scene. I'm pretty cool,
Also talks about like listening to like a cover of it, like, so not even like the let me look it up, but yeah, like that's damn.
It was very validating that she was into the Replacements when she did the cover of Swingin' Party, because I liked the Replacements, and it was like, oh, cool, she's like into the same kind of stuff I am.
Yeah, it's very much like, I mean, yeah, number one, the Replacements rule. Number two, yeah, like very much she is doing like her, like you were saying, Andrew, like she's kind of posting her way through it for like all of these like milestones that that she's reaching. And as I've said many times like before, like on this episode, there's just like that constant push and pull of like, I don't know what the future holds, but like, just so you guys know, I'm not a kid anymore. Like that she's constantly signaling, I know these weird artists, like I know I've done this, I've felt that, like constantly going back to that. And I guess I don't really have anything to expand on that. I'm just reiterating that point. Ribs is awesome though. That is an amazing track. She was definitely cooking with that one.
Have you guys watched Overcompensating yet?
I saw the scene you showed me. It's very funny.
Yeah. It's Benito Skinner, his show on Amazon, and it's like what I really like about it, it's this kind of like alternate universe college comedy where like it's simultaneously 2012 and 2024. It's like it's both at the same time. And so for if you're like our age, it's pretty nostalgic, I would say. And so he's in this film class and he makes this horrible short film that's called Ribs, but the S is a dollar sign. And so it's just like he has his friend like in a bathtub full of milk and she's like coming up out of it. And then you realize the whole thing has been backwards. And it's just so bad. And it's very funny.
I think she still ends a lot of her concerts with that song. So like she knows it's kind of the fan favorite. I do think there's some duds on the album too. Like I don't think Glory and Gore is all that great. I also think Still Sane, like they just get a little too overwrought in the lyrics, I think. And the melodies don't really carry the load for me. But I do think you're right that it's like a lot of high highs, like some all-time great songs on it, and then a couple that are just like, whatever.
I also think you just remove White Teen Teeth and just like not feel any loss from this album. Just like
I kind of like White Teen Teeth.
I like it. It builds.
Like I like it because it's so like sophomoric. Like if I mean that like sincerely though. Like if you wrote that now, I like at the age that she is or any of us are, I'd be like, what the hell are you doing? But White Teen Teeth is like it's so like it's so high school. Shout out Taylor Swift, I guess. that it like it's almost refreshing, Like that to me is like strip away the beautiful lyricism of and prescient thoughts like of a lot of the rest of this album. Like White Teen Teeth is like the most high done version of somebody that I went to high school with like writing lyrics to a song. It's so petty, it's so like small scale, it's so meaningless in the grand scheme of things, but like that's what being young is all about. That's the kind of stuff that shapes your young adulthood and your worldview for a good point. Like little things like that is the end of the world.
Yeah, I think that White Teeth Teens is not for us as adults, but it is for like teenagers who are reading like a vampire YA series, who like needs a soundtrack to that kind of thing. Like I think it's perfect for something like that.
More songs should be for me and my ilk. I think I'm running out. Like any other highlights? Like let's talk. Jack, what's a highlight for you?
I'll shout out Tennis Court. I think that's a good example. Beach Bunny's good at it as well of kind of invoking those archetypes of class clown and beauty queen and things like that in a way that feels kind of snotty and self-aware. And I think it's just got a really good beat. I like the way that the hook is kind of just like a big bass line coming in. That one's a lot of fun. And I remember that feeling like, oh, very exciting, even before Royals had come out. Like, oh, this is not something you're used to hearing from a pop song.
Tennis Court is such an insanely strong way to start the album. Like, that is such a beautiful introduction to, people had already heard Royals from, like, it was already ubiquitous, but, to then go into, like, okay, what is the actual album like? It's such, like, a good, like, unfurling of like the red carpet of like this new era of pop minimalism, like it just starts off so like kind of like sinister, like it like just leading you into like its trap, I guess. And that hook is so good. I mean, like those little girls, very inspiring. And I say that as somebody who, like, one of my least favorite things in all of pop is whenever production adds in the background the like deep voice going, "True." You know, like it's almost like a mockery of like that specific production accoutrement.
Yeah, the music video is really interesting too. Like, just like the where she only lip syncs the yeah, and like she looks like an alien. Like she looks the whitest anyone's ever looked. Like also, and she has like black contact lenses. It's kind of funny. Like her idea of what an adult is. You know, like this idea that like an adult is this like bored, disaffected kind of, I think that's fascinating. And I also like think though it's also a defense mechanism. Like she reveals on Still Sane, like, I'm hiding that I'm terrified or whatever she says. But like she's kind of like I like that. I think that's but then
it's an accurately teenage perspective.
Yeah. And then also like thinking you're like a big in that same song, Still Saying, it's all about like, I'm coming for the crown. I'm little, but I'm coming for the crown. And like a lot of young people also feel like pop stars. A lot of young people feel like movie stars, or like they're the lead in their own movie that's happening. And like they romanticize their lives. And this like really is a great anthem for that. Let's go through lowlights. Any lowlights is album?
I feel like Still Sane is kind of a low light for me just because it doesn't do a whole lot. Like I think like no matter how you feel about like a lot of the other songs on this album, whether they're like, corny or too general or whatever, like I feel like they're, for the most part, the songs on this album are like doing something. And then like Still Sane is just kind of, not.
I second that for sure. I don't think it needs to be on the album.
Still Sane looks like the obvious albatross here. Like I don't know how it is on Spotify, but like looking at YouTube Music, like the number of streams for Still Sane is so much less than every other song. But yeah, I would agree that that's a low light. There's definitely like some songs, like I don't know if I'm that crazy about Buzzcut Season, like as a song. I don't hate it, but I definitely think like I think that like it being a low light at all, or like a potential low light, is only it's the Seinfeld effect. It only comes from this being the trailblazing album that it is, and I've heard a million Buzzcut Seasons since. I've heard the song itself a ton, and I've heard a million knockoffs, like even more. So like when I got to that song, I was just kind of like, okay, like I need to get out of this H&M. But yeah, it's not a terrible song. There's not a whole lot like that I could point to other than Still Sane, really, that I dislike about this album, like other than occasionally like, some of those like aging themes, like, it is kind of like you still got your entire life ahead of you. Stop doomering.
Yeah, again, like I just feel that Betty Draper in Mad Men, like there's that quote, like she was like, her kid's like, I'm bored, and she's like, only boring people are bored. Like that idea of just like I don't know.
Betty Draper was cooking with that one.
Yeah, she folded him like laundry. But yeah, like that's just like that's how I feel about some of these songs. It's just like when she's in that like kind of persona, I'm just like less interested. I like the more her showing her vulnerability, and her showing like
sometimes though like that persona. I think that this album is interesting in the fact that like when you look at like Virgin, right? Virgin is so much her exposing who Ella herself, the person, is, things that are specific to her going through like, these specific heartbreaks, like having an eating disorder, her relationship to gender and all that stuff. Like on here, it's definitely a little more opaque because it's going like with those community milestones that we were all talking about. And I think the fact that like sometimes she veers into that territory of it being like eye rolling, like I'm saying, like that in and of itself is like a put on and like part of the character. So like even those things kind of become interesting to me because it's like, one, she either sincerely believes that this is the way the world works or who she's supposed to be, or two, this is what she thinks I think the world is, or like who somebody who's young needs to be to like prove themselves as an adult, you know?
Yeah, let's go through some any observations, any like kind of like songs we haven't like touched on, any like ideas or anything like that.
Check out that remix. I do think there's also like a zillion horrible Royals dubstep remixes. I think that truly is like key to part of the album's success is the fact that like it was clearly made on a computer and you could chop up parts of it, do your little remix or throw it in a DJ set. I think it very smartly doesn't have, you know, these big gaudy bass drops in it, but it could be very easily turned into that, which I think is an interesting thing to witness happen in real time.
I just like shuddered at thinking like the amount of SoundCloud accounts out there, like, and they're awful remixes.
I think my issue with Royals, I think it's great. I think it's a fun song. It's the stacking harmonies like Aru, let me live that fantasy. Like that is really good. I'm more forgiving of like the critique that it could be a microaggression against like rap music as a thing. You know, I'm more forgiving about that. Especially because it's like contrasted with like Miley Cyrus's, you know, Can't Stop, which was like a day apart from each other. The music videos, at least. It's a good message. I don't know if she's the right messenger for this song. I don't know if she's the right person to deliver this message. Like, I don't think the person who became royal, like, with this song should be delivering this message. I don't think the person buying $130 titanium water bottles that are like spiritual talisman like should be like delivering
but she
this
was
message.
like she was so much younger at the time, you know? Like I don't know. I definitely get like the I think the microaggression thing is like worth pointing out, you know, that it's like, yeah, maybe you shouldn't like take umbrage with something that is predominantly black, like specifically, you know, knowing that a like a white person is, you know, coming from that. I think it's worth calling out that in relation to like her being a young person and what that says in the sort of environment that was created for her, you know, like me growing up in like a suburb of Chicago where it was like 92% white, like there's just stuff that you're like completely insulated from and in a bubble and you just don't understand like the nuances of the world. So I think like that's like a messy line for sure. And like, you know, I think I'm pretty sure Lorde herself has like called that out maybe. Can anybody confirm? No, okay.
Yes. Sure.
Yeah. But yeah, I think that Royals itself like seems like a very genuine song. Like I can't like fault her for the hypocrisies in that song that weren't present when she made it. But I do think, you know, I do think that knowing where she came from with that song does make me hold on to some of that stuff with the current version of Lorde, you know? Like that's why I think some of the things that she sings about now come across, maybe I shouldn't say they come across as like false, but I'm holding them as a listener and a fan of hers for so long. I'm holding a bit of a microscope up to what she's saying or how she's like acting with some of this stuff, you know? I would even make the argument that like the aspect of her wanting to prove these milestones on Pure Heroine, I think she's kind of doing the same thing on Virgin. Does that track for anybody? Am I talking out of turn?
Virgin hasn't really landed for me in the same way because I'm not 15 like I was when Pure Heroine came out, so I haven't like dug into it in the same way. But that's an interesting lens. I'm gonna have to go back to it and re-listen. But I mean, in some ways, I don't think that's a negative. Like I think what we're describing is what I like about an artist. You know, they document different periods of their life and all the different milestones that may or may not include. And I think what I like about Lorde is you can sense how her perspective changes throughout the different eras that she's been recording.
Yeah. So like, yeah, let's go through final thoughts and ratings. The way this works is we'll rate this album 10 with a fun metric at the end. Who would like to go first?
I'm not going first.
I really I'm kind of probably the least jazzed by this album out of the four of us. I think it's like their song this one is the one I'll revisit the least probably. I haven't listened to Solar Power all the way though. Like I thought like the spoken word of Secrets of a Girl Who's Seen It All is like one of the most embarrassing things ever recorded on a song ever. Welcome to Regret Lane. We're flying over the mountains
that
of
part,
sadness. like
that part is very silly, but like, you know, I mean, I guess since we're not doing a Solar Power episode, like I'll softly defend that outro because I don't know what sort of audio engineering went into that part, but Robin's voice, like just the timbre of her voice at that part is like the most ASMR thing I have ever heard. It feels like she is massaging my brain. And while the lyrics are stupid and embarrassing and like I can't believe that they actually did it, that is maybe the only part of that album that made me feel anything at all.
Wow.
Yeah, I actually did also listen to Solar Power quite a bit in the last couple weeks because I thought we were going to be doing that album. And I didn't hate it. I just want to put that out there. I don't hate it. It does not do as much for me as any of her other albums, but I didn't hate it. And I really like Fallen Fruit. I think that's just like a really great song. So
but like this is probably the one I'll revisit the least. It feels like the most like underdeveloped of, you know, and like I appreciate like every album after this taking a really big swing, you know, and you know sometimes they miss Baby, but like I think it's like a real but the seeds are here. The skeleton of the house is here. It's a great foundation to build a pop career off of, build a fascinating artist on top of. So yeah, I'll give this 7 diamonds in the flesh out of 10.
Still a 7, huh?
Yeah.
That
I'm very generous with my ratings though. Like I'm very like you have to really offend me to get like below a 5. Like you have to really upset me.
I'll give it a 6. I think it's got some good songs on it. I think it's 6 teams out of 10. But you know, I think it's still kind of an uneven listen to me, and especially in light of what she's done later. I think she obviously got a much more sophisticated vision together. So I have lots of fond memories of it, but listening to it again, I think I'll stick around at 6.
Oh no, I like this album. I think, you know, it doesn't hit quite as hard as it did when it came out, but I still feel like we gotta give it credit for what it did for pop music that came after it. So I'll give it a 8 out of 10 cities you'll never see on screen.
Yeah, I think that like it's really hard for me to give this one a rating like now, just because it was such an integral part of like a period of my life that like it's impossible to look at this album and just like see 10 songs, you know? I'm seeing 24 to 28 or whatever months like of just culture in this thing. And so I do think, you know, that like we listening to it now, yes, a lot of the juice has been squeezed out of this record, and it doesn't sound new again. It just sounds like I'm revisiting memories, and it's hard for me to even lock into, you know, the production aspects or any individual aspect like that's going on, because it just like reminds me of memories. That being said, like I think being able to like recall those memories and have the context for what for the environment that it did come out in and like what it influenced and everything, like I got to give this album like its flowers, and I think that like the thing that stood out to me the most revisiting it was just the amount of like just the perspective of being young and like what the future looks like when you're that young. I think was like the most interesting thing to kind of like dive into on here. But yeah, I don't know how much I would revisit this album now, like as a like outside of nostalgic curiosity, because it's not melodrama. Like everything that Lorde will ever put out is just going to be compared to melodrama. But even still, like I think that I would give this yeah.
Wow.
You're damn right. Yeah, I think that like remembering how much I enjoyed it and what it influenced, like yeah, I got to give this eight luxes out of 10.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, that was our review of Pure Heroine and Heroin and
One more time.
Heroin.
We need to get every pronunciation on tape, like, and then just
Heroine.
edit the right one in.
Yeah. I don't know. I feel like okay, never mind. Okay. So yeah, that was our review of that. So before we conclude, Dakota, like what did you do you have any final thoughts on Lorde as just like, revisiting some of these albums kind of like as a holistic picture? What do you think of her? Like
Oh man, yeah, what a journey this has been. I feel like this is the most that I've just spewed gobbledygook like like across it because I have so many like feelings, knowing like that Virgin came out so recently. I've just taken such a roller coaster as a listener, like from holding Lorde in some of the highest regard that I could, with being like potentially one of my favorite artists, and melodrama being like I think a 10 out of 10 album, to now she's kind of dropped two albums that I'm not crazy about, and like I've kind of put her as a listener like a little more at like arm's distance, being like, you know what, maybe we're just heading down two different paths in life, but Lorde is an artist. Like I commend her for, putting so much of herself out there and tackling so many different themes and, really shaking up the cultural landscape the way that she has. And I think that people don't give her enough flowers now just because the last two albums haven't really hit, I think that Billie Eilish gets a lot of credit for what Lorde kind of did. And that's no disrespect to Billie Eilish. I love Billie Eilish, but I think that it's important that we recognize like Lorde as the trailblazer that she is and was. And even if I haven't been too crazy about like her recent material, and maybe I never am. Again, maybe she just never puts out a record that I resonate with, I will always check out whatever she does, and I'm really grateful that that her work exists. And it's been a pleasure to enter the Lorde era.
Oh yeah. So that was our real quickly. I'll go. My ranking is Melodrama 1, Virgin 2, Pure Heroine 3. I haven't listened to Solar Power, so that's where I'm at.
So I think Solar Power getting like a did not finish. like that has to say something, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, what's crazy to me about Solar Power is that I was listening to the extended version with like the 2 bonus tracks this week, and like I feel like the bonus tracks are like better than most of the songs of the album. I was like, I guess that kind of like makes sense as something like they just didn't fit in, maybe if she was doing them at the same time, or maybe that was like part of the seed of Virgin, which is an album I like a lot. I will say, in defense of Virgin, I love that album. But yeah, I think the bonus tracks are really solid on Solar Power.
Yeah, I think like the some of the issues that I've had with like her previous two ones is like I think the ideas of Virgin and Solar Power are more interesting than like the albums themselves turn out to be, because like I know that I'm kind of reheating my own nachos, but like
okay, Lady Gaga,
with Solar,
like
Yeah, with solar power, like there was there was so much speculation from like her email list that was like she's going to be singing about climate change and wellness culture and all this stuff, and then it just kind of turned out to be like an entire almost don't come for me, Lord Stands, almost an entire album of her just being like, isn't being high at the beach fun?
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, what else?
Yeah.
Well, okay. In defense of Virgin, Jack's a great guy. So, anyways, like, let's go through.
Okay.
Like,
was that a dig at Jack?
yeah. Yeah. Let's just
What did Jack do?
I took that for Jack Antonoff. You better back up, buddy, and start pronouncing album titles correctly if you want to come from me.
I wanted to differentiate it from the drug. That's why I said pronounce it different. So yeah, like thank you so much, Jack. That was our review of Lorde. Thank you so much for coming such short notice and like for dealing with our chaotic. Okay, we're doing this. No, we're doing this. No, this person's coming out. No, no. Like
I've been orbiting Lorde for a while. Yeah, good. We
just...
could connect and get in depth on it for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, please come back whenever you want. Yeah, like whenever any of your blank check favors come by, like maybe we could like ask you to come by, like Fran or Ben or something like that. Like that could be fun. But yeah, like Jack, anything you like to plug? Anything your album?
Yeah, if the first thing I'll say is my album Raw Deal is streaming just about everywhere. If you like Lorde, you might like this. It's kind of like new wave indie rock and roll from Chicago. And then if you are in Chicago, in October, I've got 2 events in 1 week. On the 6th, I'm doing an interview with Chris DeVille of Stereo Gum, talking about his new book, all about 21st century indie.
Wow.
And then that Wednesday, the 8th, I'm going to be DJing at the Native in Logan Square, doing like a mid-2000s indie hip-hop pop kind of mishmash of a DJ set, all vinyl. So if you're in Chicago, come see me one of those things and say hello.
Wow.
That sounds sick.
Yeah,
It's gonna be a lot of fun.
I've ever been
Really
to the
excited
Native.
about it.
It's a good spot. Lots of fun.
Yeah, you can follow me at Andrew Ambrose Lee, Dakota _with_fun, Harper at Harping Abouts. Harper, anything you like to plug? You're getting an X-ray.
Yeah, oh, my ultrasound schooling. No, I don't know. Everyone go get your COVID booster. It's going around, not to be a healthcare professional, but it's going around in a big way. So go get your booster.
Yeah, like so that was our Lorde review. Please follow us, check out our Patreon show. I've been meaning to watch that. And Jack, any final thoughts? Any final sentiments before we conclude?
No, it's been great to say my piece on Lorde, so thanks, guys.
Yeah, thanks so much, everybody. Have a good day. Yeah. Click.